Assalamu alaikum everyone. We have already discussed the introductory portion of the general prologue to Canterbury Tales. Today we will be talking about the various characters which has been described by Geoffrey Chaucer in his general prologue to Canterbury Tales. The general prologue offers a very brief visual description of each pilgrim, focusing on details of their background as well as key details of their clothing, their food, likes and dislikes, and their physical features. The very first character which has been described by Geoffrey Chaucer in his prologue to Canterbury Tales is the knight. Knight in the Middle Ages is a man who served his sovereign or lord as a mounted soldier, as a warrior. So the narrator begins his character portraits with the knight. In the narrator's eyes, the knight is the noblest of the pilgrims, embodying military prowess, loyalty, honor, generosity, and good manners. The knight conducts himself in a very polite and mild fashion, never saying an unkind word about. The knight proved his bravery in war, in the service of his feudal superior, King Edward III. The knight had fought in 15 deadly battles, and he had also fought for the Christian faith at Algeria. The knight has battled the Muslims in Egypt, Spain and Turkey, and the Russian Orthodox in Lithuania and Russia. Several times he had fought in single combat. Each time he had killed his adversary. Military valor was the most striking quality of the knight. He possessed certain other admirable virtues, and in his behavior he was as modest as a maiden, and he did not wear the showy garments. Chaucer gives us an idealized portrait in the case of the knight. The second character which has been portrayed by the narrator in the general prologue is Squire, the knight's son, who is about 20 years old, acts as his father's squire or apprentice. Though the squire has fought in battles with great strength and agility like his father, he is also devoted to love. A strong, beautiful, curly-haired young man, dressed in clothes embroidered with dainty flowers, the squire fights in the hope of winning favor with his love lady. His talents are those of courtly lover, singing, playing the flute, drawing, writing, and riding, and he loves so passionately that he gets little sleep at night. He is a dutiful son and fulfills his responsibilities towards his father. Accompanying the knight and squire is the king's yeoman or free-born servant. The yeoman wears green from head to toe and carries an enormous bow and beautifully feathered arrows as well as a sword and small shield. His gear and attire suggest that he is a forester. Next, the narrator describes the Prirus, named Madame Eglantine. Although the Prirus is not part of the royal court, she does her best to imitate its manners. She takes great care to eat her food daintily, to reach for food on the table delicately, and to wipe her lip clean of grease before drinking from her cup. She speaks French, but with a terrible English accent. She is compassionate towards animals, weeping when she sees a mouse caught in a trap, and feeding her dogs roasted meat and milk. The narrator says that her features are pretty, even her enormous forehead. On her arm, she wears a set of prayer beads, from which hangs a gold brooch that features the Latin words for love conquers all. Another nun and 3 priests accompany her. You all know, a Prirus is a woman who is head of a house of certain orders of nuns. The Prirus here, she carried a small coral rosary which had large dividing beads of green, and on it there hung a brooch of the brightest gold, on which there was first written a crowned A and then the words "Love conquers all." Joseph makes fun of her, describing how she speaks French with a terrible accent and sings religious hymns through her nose. Although she should be devoted to Jesus, she is more concerned with worldly matters. Her coral rosary, her brightest gold brooch, all these decorative ornamental pieces serves as a decorative piece rather than a religious article. The monk is the next pilgrim the narrator describes. Extremely handsome, he loves hunting and keeps many horses. He is an outrider at his monastery. He looks after the monastery's business with the external world, and his horse's bridle can be heard jingling in the wind as clear and loud as a church bell. The monk is aware that the rule of his monastic order discourages monks from engaging in activities like hunting, but he dismisses such structures as worthless. The narrator says that he agrees with the monk. Why should the monk drive himself crazy with study or manual labor? The fat, bald, and well-dressed monk resembles a prosperous lord. The next member of the company is the friar, a member of a religious order who lives entirely by begging. This friar is jovial, pleasure-loving, well-spoken, and socially agreeable. He hears confessions and assigns very easy penance to people who donate money. For this reason, he is very popular with wealthy landowners throughout the country. He justifies his leniency by arguing that donating money to friars is a sign of true repentance, even if the penitent is incapable of shedding tears. He also makes himself popular with innkeepers and barmaids who can give him food and drink. He pays no attention to beggars and lepers because they can't help him or his fraternal order. Despite his vow of poverty, the donations he extracts allow him to dress richly and live quite merrily. What is the difference between a friar and a monk? A friar belongs to a religious order, a group within the Catholic Church. Friars are like monks in that they are devoted to a religious life. But a friar lives and works among regular people in society, whereas a monk lives in a secluded, self-sufficient group of monks. This friar, which has been described by the narrator in the general prologue, he is a bachelor on a love hunt, a crooked businessman. He knows many beautiful women and affluent men and really associates with the class of people he should live among. The friar had performed many marriages at his own cost. He seduces women with sweet words and a crafty tongue. A friar's duty was not supposed to flirt with the women of the town, but to beg for poor. But he is not begging for money to appease his goal, but to feed his own flesh, to appease his flesh. His goal is not to feed the poor, but rather is wooing women to appease his inner ego. He is selling the church's forgiveness. And he continues to show his faithfulness by avoiding the lower class, not hearing their confessions, and refusing to help them at all. He chooses instead to hang out in wealthier circles. This hero of the poor, the friar, apparently is not doing his duties. As Chaucer gives the description of the friar, we see how this can be surmised. This man of God, hero of the poor, and mediator between God and men, turns out to be a fraudulent, a corrupt worm, as his claims of giving penance. He is more consumed with winning the affections of barmaids than winning support to build a shelter for poor. The limiter is busy scheming to do illegal business rather than to serve the poor. And because of pride, the friar does not accomplish his woo of the life of poverty. His character, dignity, and nobility all lack sincerity. This friar has no burden on his soul to assist the poor, but only to further his distasteful lifestyle. Rather than a shepherd among his flock, the friar lurks as a hungry wolf. Another character, which has been described by the narrator in the general prologue, is the merchant. Tastefully attired in nice boots and an imported fur hat, the merchant speaks constantly of his profits. The merchant is good at borrowing money, but clever enough to keep anyone from knowing that he is in debt. The narrator does not know his name. After the merchant comes the clerk, a thin and threadbare student of philosophy at Oxford. He devours books instead of food. The man of law, an influential lawyer, follows next. He is a wise character, capable of preparing flawless legal documents. The man of law is a very busy man, but he takes care to appear even busier than he actually is. It was all for today. In the next lecture, we will analyze these characters critically. Thank you so much for listening to me.